Hey guys, welcome to another live stream. This is live stream number 107. Tonight's topic is working on boundaries. That was a suggestion that came up last week, and so I have some stuff I want to talk to you about that. My ex set a boundary for me: 4 walls of a jail. Nice, Lloyd. Lyell. Anyways, hopefully I sound okay. Hopefully everything is working. This is the second week with the new configuration, with the new operating systems and all the new updated software. So hopefully it doesn't crash on me. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. Let me dive into my normal spiel, and that is, I am not a therapist. I am an individual, much like yourself, who has gone through a very frustrating experience, and I have developed some tips and techniques that have helped me that I am sharing with you, that, and I hope that it will help you deal with your situation. Let's see. The main one. Not the main one, but a very important one. Be anonymous online. If you are new to this channel and you're using your real name as your YouTuber ID, just be aware that, well, not that I'm doing the comments over here, I'm pulling those out, but the comments are still captured live and your name's still there. And if you ask a question and I post it in there, I will use your name. So if you're worried about that, create another YouTube account or change your YouTube name to something, unique and interesting. So that way you have a little bit of anonymity on that. Or the next thing on that is diagnosing. I am not diagnosing anybody. The only person who can diagnose somebody is a clinician who is evaluating somebody. You may have recognized or heard about the controversy of Shane Dawson doing this Inside the Mind of Jake Paul, and there was some blowback because they're talking about psychopaths and insinuating about making some diagnosis. They actually interviewed a therapist who didn't, from what I've seen, didn't necessarily diagnose anybody, but they were talking about the traits. So, be cautious of that. We can make assumptions, and we can look at traits and characteristics and then make decisions to protect ourselves based on that. Just be really careful when you're throwing diagnosis around, because, in the world of psychology, the only people that can do that are certified therapists and clinicians who have that skill set. And it's a pain. Debbie's in the process of going through that now. She's finished her degree a while ago, but she's in a position to try to get her certification hours, and that takes a long time. It's not something that happens real quick. So there's a process there. That's what this channel is about. If you think it can help you, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so that YouTube will tell you about videos when they're posted. Even though I haven't been doing a great job of posting videos, it's just been really busy. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can do that over at dadsurvivingdivorce.com. It'll pop up with a dialog box. If it doesn't, you can just scroll down. There's a little form you can fill out and be added onto the list. I don't share your email with anybody. All you get is little emails from me and then a way to reply back to me directly, which a lot of people did. This last one that I sent out on, was it yesterday? Maybe it was yesterday. That was on... crap, I can't remember what it was on, but I've had a lot of people reply back, and it's really cool. I really love hearing from you guys. I love hearing your stories. I don't necessarily get to chat with people a lot, and you may be able to hear the motorcycle that keeps driving around in the background, like really loud, which is weird because I'm in a cul-de-sac, but oh well. Oh yeah, OldShawneeRd says, I've stopped using the term narc as a catch-all. Now I use toxic people. That's actually the reason why I do that. I may say narcissistic or toxic narcissistic personality types, but that's kind of the reason I do that. I think that in a lot of ways, the term narcissist has been, thanks, Jack, it was on Closure. Thank you. Which it was on my subject of my podcast that dropped Monday. Anyways, I think that's one of the reasons why I switch to that term. Now, every once in a while, we'll still say narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, or talk about cluster B, primarily because a lot of times people, when they're looking for this stuff, that's the terms they start looking on when they're starting to look on it, research it, and it helps people find content. But that's the reason why I typically just use toxic. But before I move on, the one thing I want to say that's important about understanding the personality disorder part of it is that's really a big piece that helps give us closure. It's one of those things where you kind of go through and it helps you in the validation part of this. And then as you kind of wrap your head around and you know what it is, or you have a good idea what the framework is, then you can kind of, back off like old OldShawneeRd was talking about, because staying in that mode doesn't really help you. And if you start using those terms with people who don't understand, it doesn't really help you. Excuse me. Okay, so, and the last thing is, if you want to be on the text notification, you can text DSD Live to 33222, and that will add your SMS number or your mobile number onto that list. Unfortunately, it only works within the US, but then whenever I hit the go button, and I remember to do that, it will send you out a text. So on that, let me just double check some things. I want to see how the comments are going. It looks like we got a few people in here tonight, which is awesome, outstanding. We got OldShawneeRd in, and Jack F, and Lyell's in. Missing the baseball. Oh no! Hopefully you have it on in the background. Yeah, God, sometimes I really wish I could do this at a different time. James F says James F is in the house. We have let's see who else do we have. Lyell said boop. That's pretty funny. I need to, let's see if I can do this from here. Add as moderator. So I'm going to add Fighting Dad as moderator. Speaking of that, some of the folks have, like our old mods, have changed their names. Well, James hasn't, but he is actually in the process of doing that. And so we got our mods here, and I don't even have the Discord up. So I'm going to pull the Discord open. And so that way, if there's other stuff going on, they can be set over there. Just so you guys can see kind of the craziness that's going on. This is what is going on, and all the different screens I have open to try to make all this magic work. Let me put this over. Let's see, where am I going to put this? I'll put this here. And yeah, there we go. So a little behind the scenes stuff. So that's what I was trying to do the other day whenever the whole... whenever the whole thing, as soon as I went to the camera, it shut off. It was it was amazing. Anyways, so that was pretty funny. All right. So, let's see. Oh, we got a couple new people. Gigi, I don't think you've been on before, so welcome to the channel. Welcome to a live show. And, oh, Chris says, hi, Duane, just to keep you in the loop. My court hearing is in 2 weeks. Wish me luck. Well, wish you luck, Chris. Hopefully it goes well. I know it's pretty stressful to kind of waiting is just tough, right? I mean, I hate that. I hated that part when it was coming up, and I hated it whenever it was the next day. But, it's one of those things we have to go through. LJ's on. Hey, LJ, glad you can make up. Oh, JS is on. Hey, I haven't seen you on for a while, so that is awesome. Hopefully you're doing okay. I know we've been chatting a little bit behind the scenes on the Discord. And if you guys, before I jump into it, if you're not familiar with the Discord, if you go over to, let's just pop this up real quick. If you go up to the main YouTube channel, the little link on the far right here that I'm hovering over with my mouse is the invite for the Discord link. That's how you would get into that. And be able to interact and chat with people. It's a good way to talk to people without basically having to give out all your personal information. So let's see what else is going on, and then we'll jump into tonight's topic. Schaefer One had said, trying to stop cursing or using ugly remarks, but when you meet up with a disordered person, there's only one or two good names to use. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. James F says this is a troll-free zone. That's pretty funny. All right, so let me jump in. Let me jump into this. So I gotta hit a couple of buttons here to make sure that. Oh, okay. Let's see. Fighting Dad had posted to me on the other thing. Says Sam Vaknin's recent interview with Richard Granion classified NPD as a PTS disorder other than a personality disorder, and said it should be reclassified in the DSM. But yes, they're toxic. Period. Yeah, you know, it's weird. Every time they come out with a new DSM, they happen to change things. They did that last time with antisocial personality disorder. That's what used to be I think it used to be psychopathy or psychopath. But if you guys have ever looked at the DSM, I don't have one here with me. Debbie took it back because it was hers. Anyways, it's a pretty darn complicated thing. I mean, and that whole manual is about diagnosing and assessing what a person might have. And then there's a companion workbook that even goes through more questions on it, which is really an interesting thing. So if you watch that Shane Dawson video, whenever Katie Morton and him were discussing it, she was actually going through the DSM on that for the definition of a psychopath. All right, let's, okay, so I'll hit that and let me come over here and scroll down. Okay, so hopefully I have this thing working correctly. Today's topic is working on boundaries. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have. And the first part I want to just discuss real quick is some of the ways where we have problem with our boundaries. And I fell within this category, and I think a lot of us hit this part. And one of that is, a lot of times the first part of it is people-pleasing syndrome, are making people happy, basically putting everyone else's happiness and well-being above your own at your expense. And, you know, it's tough because you want to reduce conflict, which is what the next topic is. You want things to be better. You want things to be calm. You want to dissipate the conflict that's going on at that particular moment, which primes you to not establish good boundaries. Because what happens is you have, and this is where the last one was second guessing yourself. You get in this situation to where you're like running this battle in your head, and it's like, well, is it really worth it? And I used to run into this. It's like I would have a problem, and I would have this internal dialogue with myself, where instead of saying, yes, this is an issue and needs to be discussed, it would be, is it really that important? And this will get confusing and will conflict a little bit when we get to the end of this. Because, which when I start talking about choosing your battles, but that's part of the problem is that you start thinking about, okay, well, is it really worth it? Is this particular issue, whatever it is, they're being mean to me, but they said some snarky little remarks, but it's really not that big of a deal. Am I really going to cause an argument? Because we've also been programmed that when we do try to stand up for ourselves, there's typically a narcissistic rage or a consequence for doing that. And that's the other thing that happens. And typically that also happens, excuse me, as you're growing up and in your family of origin, if that is a problem, which was in my case. I learned early on that if I tried to discuss, holy cow, wow, Ellen, I really appreciate that. Let me just bounce over here because you guys can't see that. See, I don't do that on the screen anymore. Actually, it might pop up here in a second. But Ellen just did a super chat. Says, hi all, Duane, your last podcast on closure was powerful. There was so much real life and info to apply. You are so honest about your experience. Just so appreciative. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Ellen. I really appreciate it. And thank you for thank you for the support, and thank you for the donation. And I'll just pause before I go back into the slide. But sometimes, guys, that's hard, right? I mean, that podcast, I did talk about some things that I would rather just have forgot that I ever did. However, I think it's important to bring some of those up because there's a lot of times where you guys are going to struggle with the same thing, potentially make the same mistakes. And I don't necessarily want to put out the image there that I've done everything absolutely correct, that I'm the Jedi Master, because I'm not. I mean, I've gotten a lot better and I'm more skilled at this now, but I made mistakes too. So towards the end of that, and I think you can find it in the show notes. I didn't really go into a lot of detail what the story was. I think I just said that I share a story. And that was a really tough time for myself and Debbie. And it was hurtful for her too. So, anyways, on that, so let me get back on this. What I was talking about with the second guessing is what I was talking about is the situation with my mom. What I would do is I would push back, and oh my God, she was fast. She could take whatever I said in an instant and turn it around. And, you know, like I would say something that I thought would defend myself and my position, and bam, it would be just like grabbed and just beat me over the head with it. So I learned early on, shut up. Just keep your mouth shut, take your beating, sit there quietly, don't say anything, don't give the person any other ammunition. And as a result, when I got into the situation with my wife, what happened is when I would get angry, I wouldn't say anything. Part of it was I didn't want to say anything that I would regret later. But secondly, it was just that conditioning of if you say something, it's going to be used against you and taken out of context and thrown back in your face. And I'll tell you, man, my mom was a master at that. Man, I just, you know, I mean, it's one of, and you guys probably can experience that or have experienced that as well, to where you try to argue with your narcissist and they're able to twist and turn and take whatever you say and use it against you. All right, let me see. I think there was a question. John Boston says, I'm not sure if my question got posted. I have 2 people that I know who are in different court cases, and the attorneys are taking all their money. I'm seeing attorneys take people's homes. Yeah, they will. It's some of them are really unscrupulous, and it's really kind of scary because this is what it's going to play out as. This is what the chances of success are. I don't think it's a good bargain or a good gamble. And they've recommended a few times to not take my money. So, did something happen? Did I go away? Did my signal die? Holy cow. Well, that's annoying. Oh, wow. It's saying it's bad. It's saying my signal is baddie McBad. And I have, hold on a second. I got too many windows open. No. All right. Am I back? Oh my gosh. How much? It was offline for about a minute. Oh no. Did I get through what I was talking about with the working on your boundaries, and I can move on to the next part? And I'll tell you what, on these other questions, I'll hit those at the end, unless it's about this particular topic on boundaries. I hit a couple of them, but let's stop and let's just do that afterwards so I can get through the main topic, and then we can go into discussion. Okay. Dang it. That is, okay. Right in the middle, but get back to boundaries. Okay. All right. Let me move on to the next thing that I want to hit on this. Go back to Chrome. Okay. So what's my definition of boundaries? It's things that are important to you. And you'll see the trend on this part of it when I'm talking about boundaries. It's making you a priority. And I don't mean making you a priority like I was talking about before, where you're like, okay, well, I don't want stress, so I'm going to make it a priority not to make it stressful. No, because that's not being authentic to who you are. What I'm saying is that, what is important to you? If, and then the next part of that is what makes you happy? What is it that you're looking for in life and from your partner? And do you feel like you're being, when I say, do you feel like you're being heard, what I mean is, do you feel like you're being valued? And the thing on this is picking or going through the things that are super important to you. Okay. Now on this, an easy part of it, or an easy example of boundaries for most of us in this situation, is the way we deal with communication with our toxic ex. And it looks like my stream is just going up and down tonight. So hopefully it doesn't crash again. But we shall see. Excuse me. So what I mean on that is picking what is important to you. So it's like in the communication thing for us, you know that directly interacting with your ex is a dangerous game, and it gives them tremendous access to you for gaslighting you, pushing your buttons, and causing extra trauma and conflict. So a simple boundary that a lot of us try to make is communication is going to be through email only, or not face-to-face. And in this situation, what I'm talking about, it's easy. It's easier to create a boundary like that, which means, like, okay, so the communication is that way. So you just stick with it. Now it's going to be tough because people who push boundaries are going to do that, are going to continue to do that, which means that if you were to say, you know what, I've decided that all communications shall be through email. You will not talk to me in this condescending tone, and all these things that I'm saying, if you're saying it to your ex, is all it's doing is giving them more of an incentive to mess with you. So you stick with it. When they say, no, I'm not going to use email, I'm going to call you on the phone. You don't answer the phone. If they're talking to you in person whenever you're doing a drop off, which I hope to God that you guys do not have to do that. Hopefully it's drop off and drive away, and there's not really a handoff to where both of you are like, okay, here's the bags. Okay, here's information. In a normal situation, that is fine, right? Because it gives you an opportunity to say what little Johnny and little Susie are doing, talk about a couple of things, and get on down your way. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with a toxic person, they will use that as an opportunity to poke you in the eye. So you would, in that situation, and this is what I've done in my situation, is like, no, we will do email and leave it at that. And you just leave. And it's like, just turn around and say, okay, well, we'll talk later. You don't have to go, I'm not talking to you, and then turn around and leave. You go, no, we'll just continue. You know what? Hey, whatever your issues are, send them to me to email. I got to go and, leave. That's it. It's just going to take, it's tough. Now, rolling the clock back in everything else, it's a little harder, and it's a little gray area, more of a gray area, because it's a lot of those things in your own mind, right? Like if, for instance, you don't like, I don't know, swearing. Let's say you don't like swearing, and your ex is saying stuff to you, and you're like, do you make that a boundary? Do you not make that a boundary? Then you start having to go through these ideas in your own head. But what I would say is you got to figure out what's important to you. You have to figure out what is the life you want to lead and what you want to live, and then make sure that you're respecting yourself to set those boundaries so that you can be true to yourself, and then people can't trample over you and over your boundaries. Okay. So I hope I got one more thing to go through. I want to hit on this a little bit about how to implement it, but I hope I know that this is a lot of the stuff is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Just common sense type stuff. But in a lot of ways in the moment, you don't think about it. I know I didn't, when things would happen and I'm like, man, I don't, this doesn't make me feel good. Oh, well, I don't want to risk my marriage. I don't want to make her mad. I don't want to, is it really that big of a deal in the grand scheme? This is what I used to do. In the grand scheme of things, is it really that big of a deal? No, I'm just mad about it now. I won't be mad about it tomorrow, because we all have short memories and we're all looking for those breadcrumbs of attention from our toxic exes to make us feel like all of this isn't really what we think it is. Okay, so another question was, JS says, question, how do we maintain boundaries if we are required to acquiesce to keep them from raging? Now, the thing is, on that, okay, so in this answer is going to potentially make them rage more, but part of that is let me think through this for a second. Part of that is not responding, not getting to the point to let them push your buttons, and they are going to try, right? I mean, if the person is raging at you and saying, I'm trying to think of what it is. If you take a thing to where you're like, hey, Bill, you were supposed to bring their book bag, and then they start trying to make that an issue. Well, if you didn't, if you hadn't caused this problem, then we wouldn't be having this situation, and I wouldn't have to forget it, and and the times are too, yada yada yada. The problem is a lot of times you get in the situation to where you feel like you have to fight, and this is what we're going to get into in the last section of this, is picking your battles. But in that situation, what I would recommend is you just be as calm as possible. You be gray rock as possible. You don't, you just basically like, okay, and I mean, and that might be what you're doing already, as if you're trying to placate them to be able to get out of there. But it's like you don't respond in the same manner as they do. And I mean, your best bet would be to try to say, look, if we can't talk like this, I'm going to leave. You can send me your concerns in email and we'll discuss it over email. But we're not going to do this here. We're not going to do this in front of the kids, And if the kids aren't there, just say you're not going to do this here. All right. And then the other question from Child's Right was, what is the best boundary to have to protect oneself while still communicating? That is, in my mind, is using hybrid no contact, which is let me pull this up, is a technique that I talk about. If you go into my main playlist, Mindset for Narcissistic Abuse, let me try that one more time. Mindset for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery. It's the first video in it. Why hybrid no contact is important. Primarily what that is it's a technique that I used when I was communicating with my ex it's like just focus on the question that's really there, right? When they're raging at you in the communication, and you can do this in person, which I wouldn't recommend. I would highly encourage you to do it in email because it gives you time to think about it before you jump into it. And what you do is if they go through this whole diatribe saying that you're a piece of crap and you don't care about the kids and you're a scumbag and you don't like the kids and whatever the whole thing is, all of that is irrelevant. And just look for whatever the question is. If it's like a 15-minute tirade about how you're a piece of crap, and in that thing is the question of where is the soccer practice, whenever they pause, you say the soccer practice is at field 5 at 5 p.m. on Wednesday. And you ignore everything else. You don't take the bait, you don't respond. Now, in a lot of ways, it's going to aggravate them more, and they're going to still try to ramp it up and push it, but that's what you have to do. And for me, that was really tough. Initially, I think all of us go through this thing to where you take those baits, you want to fight every point that they bring up to say why it's not true or why it's true about them or whatever it is, and it doesn't accomplish anything. All you're doing is you're actually giving them narcissistic supply because you're engaging with them, and that's their victory. Even if they lose the argument, if you argued with them, in their mind, it's a victory for them, okay? So hopefully... Child's Rights, hopefully that helps answer that. All right, let me look at some of the comments before I jump into the last part of this, and then we can get up into the open forum. And 55 people, we're doing pretty good tonight. Hopefully you guys are appreciating or liking the way this show is going tonight and the topic, and hopefully I'm helping you. Let's see. Scrolling back. Oh, Shay says, I hid everything that I did so I didn't have to explain. Never asked permission, just took off, did what I had to do, and let him get mad later. That is another okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because another part of hybrid no contact is don't ask questions. If, make it statements. Make it just informative. Minimize your, what do you want to do about this? Or little Johnny's having a problem in school. How should we handle this? I had that the other day with my youngest. She's having problems with math. The math teacher reached out to actually both of us. And I did send an email to the ex basically saying, I received a call from our daughter's teacher. She said this was the problem. This was a recommended solution. This is what she's willing to do. Thanks. And then I signed out. I didn't say, what do you think? How are you going to handle it? None of that crap, because it doesn't help. The last time I got caught up in that, because we did have a conversation like that a few years ago, and it was just used against me. It's like, oh, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Oh, that's a great idea. And then, it was like I was the bad guy because I was holding our daughter accountable. And it made things more complicated for me. The only caveat on this is if you're in the midst of family court, make sure you are doing some communication, and because you don't want to be in a situation where you're going no contact with them, because they will absolutely use that in court to show that you're unable to co-parent, you're unable to work together and share information. And it could be detrimental to your case. So don't do that to yourself. I think like in my situation, once you get farther along and you're not in the midst, court's basically over. There's a lot of times, she doesn't email me anymore. It's actually, I think so. I'm kind of worried because something happened in her life where the distraction she may have had isn't there anymore. So I'm like, oh crap, this might mean that she might be like, you know, beep, you know, lock on me again. Okay. Here, let's switch to this camera for a second while I'm just scrolling around. Okay. So let me look at the latest comments. Okay. Where did that go? There was a question from Empower Impasse that says, is hybrid no contact the same as gray rock? No, it's not. Gray rock is basically kind of not responding. And I try not to use that term because the person who came up with it was actually attacking me a few months ago saying, you know, you use my term, you know, you better not ever use my term again, and you better give me credit, and you better mark, you know, you better say that I use, I'm like, holy cow. You know, that's why I deleted my gray rock video, because I'm like, forget this. I don't need this crap. Actually, it was kind of interesting talking about gaslighting, because the lady started doing exactly what my ex would do with the kids. Well, you know, you don't really, if you really cared about the kids, you would do this and that, you would let me leave, and you would, you know, yada, yada. And the person was doing that. Well, if you really cared about this, seriously, I got an email from a person who said, if you really cared about the narcissistic abuse recovery community, then you would give me credit for it. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I got, you know, all these, I mean, seriously, that's your comment on this? I'm like, nope, I'm done. So I was just like, okay. I mean, at one point I gave her credit in the video to link back to her other thing. But after that, I'm like, nope, never mind, delete. And I try not to use that term much anymore because of that. Because I just don't need those type of people causing that type of problem and threatening, you know, legal action and stuff like that. It was really weird. So, okay. So yeah, hybrid no contact is not the same as gray rock. Gray rock is basically just not responding. It's basically, you know, not being the shiny object that they can attach to. So when they're poking at you, instead of responding, you're just being, you know, you're trying to be as boring as possible and let them do something else. To be honest, I used to use that technique at work a lot whenever we had a lot of really toxic, high-functioning, narcissistic people. It was really scary, not exactly a great time. And when they would lock on to me, my typical course of action to deal with it is I would keep everything as stable and calm as possible. I would really be, you know, I wouldn't even, if we had something good come up, I wouldn't necessarily brief it, because I didn't want them to focus on me, because I knew if I waited long enough, somebody else would make a mistake and they would go chase them. And that's kind of what the whole thing is. It's basically just, you know, being calm, being stable, you know, not like a freeze response, but kind of in a way to where you're allowing someone else to be the shiny ball that they go after. And then you're just not responding. You're not responding in a way to where it makes it advantageous for them to continue to focus on you. So anyways, okay. Let's see. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to do this, and then I will go down to the next one. And I think that'll be the end of this stuff. Okay, how do you take them back? And when I say take them back, I don't mean the person. I mean, how do you take back your boundaries? And the first part about this, and this is even a really great test whenever you're concerned that somebody you're dealing with might be a narcissistic personality type or toxic, minus covert, and I'll touch on that in a second, is learning the power of no. Learning to basically say, no, I don't want to do this, or no, we're not going to do that. Basically, you don't always have to say yes. You don't always have to give in. The thing is, on these toxic types, whenever you push back, typically they're going to rage at you, or there's going to be some type of consequence. If they're overt, it'll be quick. Here's the thing to be careful of if you're dealing with a covert, and I say this because a lot of people who've had their original experiences with overt narcissistic personality types, when they next meet, because it seems inevitable that if your first one was an overt, your next one is going to be a covert. I mean, that is a trend I have seen over and over and over again, primarily with women, not constantly. It does happen to men too, but if your past relationship or the one you ended was overt, there is a strong chance the next one will be the opposite of that. But let me get back to this power of no. If you say no to an overt, they'll rage at you. If you say no to a covert, they may go, oh, okay, but you will pay for it later. So if you notice that whenever you stand up for yourself, a few days later, you're paying the price for it, or you're being attacked some other way, that is a really bad indication of what you're dealing with. So that's the first thing, power of no. All right, the next part I wanted to say is learning how you feel. And what I mean about this is basically getting rid of the guilt, right? Not falling into that guilt where you're like, oh crap, I should have done this, I should have done that. It's like, be true to yourself. And it's weird because I still have issues sometimes with the guilt feeling. I will do something or I will say something or whatever. And it's like, I can, 2 weeks ago, something could have happened and I'll be like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have said that. I mean, you're feeling bad about it and you're second guessing yourself. And, you have to learn to respect yourself and, what's the word I'm looking for? Defend yourself, fight for yourself, right? Going back to what we were talking about a minute ago, it's making yourself a priority. Now, part of this, before I get into the last one, is you also have to understand the consequences of this. And a lot of times what happens is, and then I know this happened with me, is you also get into this mode to where you're like, well, crap, I don't want to say no because it could end this relationship and I don't want to be alone. Is this issue, and this is kind of what I get into picking your battles, is this issue, let me back up. What I mean on this is when I was going through it, I would think, do I want to make this a battle because I don't want to do, because I'm worried about the consequence, okay? That can be a reason why you don't do it. What I'm saying on this one about picking your battles is once you start getting better on this and you're like, oh, hell no, I got boundaries and I'm going to enforce them. You can't do it on everything. You can't make everything a battle, right? You can't, and that's what I'm saying on that is like, do you really want to, choose what's important to you? For instance, like what I was talking about a minute ago with, the people who at work who would poke you in the eye or poke me in the eye and stuff, excuse me. You can directly attack those things, or you can remove yourself from the situation, remove it from your life. And, that's what I'm talking about because at the same time, you're also trying to balance. Remember when I was talking about, let me see if I can get back over here. What's important to you and what makes you happy is you also have to look at it as going to war with a narcissistic personality type in whatever methodology it is. I mean, obviously, whenever we have them as our exes, that's something that we don't have as much control over. But, you have to look at it like, okay, is that a battle worth fighting? I've talked about that in my own situation where there have been things to where I'm like, okay, I'm not really willing to fight this because it's not in the grand scheme of things for what makes me happy and what is important to me, which is my stability, my tranquility, my happiness and my stability. That's the priority, right? That's my priority. Maybe it's not yours. I don't know. But that's the reason why I don't fight my ex on everything. That's the reason why when she stopped paying the last medical bills, I haven't made it a big issue because it's one of those things where, $80, do I really care? Not really in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, it's annoying and she should have to do it and she's supposed to do it. But is it really worth it to go to war over it? No. And I don't know. I'd be curious what you guys think about that. Excuse me. Let me look at some of the questions we have up here. Oh, this is a good question. Let me grab this. I'm going to throw it in a slide. Or at least I'm going to attempt to. Hey, there it is. There we go. Now if I can just hit the right key codes to get it to work. And okay, so this one was from JS. It says, do you think they would leave us alone if we didn't share children with them? And okay, the quick answer is yes. But okay, and here's the thing on it, and this is why I talk a lot about choosing your battles on child support and stuff like that, because you may know, but I have seen time and time again where somebody is so angry at their ex because they're not paying anything or they're paying a little, Now, I get in the situation whenever you didn't work and they were the breadwinner and you don't have any income. That's not the scenario I'm talking about. If you're in that situation, you need time to recover. I get that. That's not what this is about. But I've seen people who, their ex is paying $100 in child support and it really should be $200, and they, the ex isn't involved at all, and they're like, that ain't right, and they take him back to court because they want that money and they want to drill. They want their pound of flesh, rightfully so. I mean, I know I did. Not that I was getting child support from her, but you know what I'm saying. And what I mean is, then what happens, and a lot of times you don't think about it because you're thinking, the court system says they are supposed to do this, and they come out of left field with something different. And what's that something different typically, especially when it comes with money in custody, is they want more time. And they're going to turn around and say, well, I wanted more time, but my ex would never let me have time. And now that we're here to fight about child support, now, we're here already, so I want to fight it. Guys, you have to be, I get that sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have a choice, but, going back to JS's question, if you get in a situation where they are leaving you alone, don't poke them. If it's you and your kids and they're ignoring your kids and they're not responding and your kids are upset, I know that sucks. But do you really want to wave a wand or whatever over at your ex and have them turn around and focus on you and the kids? So now, does that mean that they, well, let me back up because I know, JS, you have kids. The caveat with what you're saying is with a narcissistic personality type, if you don't have kids and they want to focus on you, they still will, but then they'll do it with other things. They'll do it with property. They'll do it with dragging out the court, the divorce. They'll go after everything or anything that they possibly can to make it as complicated as possible. So, all right, let me hit the right button to get that moving. Excuse me. Let me see what else we have. All right, let me grab this one. And thanks, moderators, for putting this in Discord because that makes it real easy. I'm trying to read through it, but it's easy to be able to just catch. Hold on, that didn't look right. To catch these things. Let me see. Is this going to work? Let's see here. This one's a little bit bigger. Let's see how this one plays out. Is it going to work? Okay, so LJ says, my ex-narc hasn't seen our 3 little kids in 3 months. I saw him drive, oh, dear God. I driving and yelled at him, where have you been? He fanned at me and rolled up his window. The kids saw this, and I was enraged. The kids was yelling for him, and my 5-year-old said I was mean. She doesn't know better. How can I get over the anger in situations like this? He is ignorant and abandoning his kids. Yeah, that's kind of what I was just talking about, LJ. And I see, and that's the problem, right? I mean, what you just said is what I've seen people do is they are so irritated and frustrated about their ex and what they're not doing that they engage like this. And here's the other thing: do not get in. And I made my own mistakes with this, so I'm not passing judgment because I said some things in front of the kids about their mom when I had her on the phone that I wish I wouldn't have done. And it's a lose-lose, right? Our kids still think that the other parent is great, even if they know it's not, even if they know they're not. You just have to let it go. Honestly, in that situation, what I would have done, or what I would recommend, is you don't even acknowledge them and you try to distract the kids so they don't see them. And it's tough because you are going to be enraged about it. You're going to be enraged that you're going through this and they're ignoring their kids. And how can someone do that? As you know, a narcissistic personality type doesn't care. They don't have any emotions or feelings towards anything other than themselves. And unless the kids are a means to an end for them, they're not going to go anywhere on it. So let me see where else we are on that. And let's see what else. All right, let me grab this question. I can do this while I'm doing it. And all right. So this one from Pencil. Hey, Pencil, haven't seen you around, so glad to have you back. Says, how do I deal with my sister/mom without feeling like the need to hit them? Sister is such a golden child. She's like I can't even, Veruca from Willy Wonka. I bite my tongue so much without saying to them. Honestly, it's no contact. You basically stop putting yourself in a situation to be around them. If you can do that, if you can't, I would highly encourage you to start moving towards that point, because putting yourself in a situation where you get enraged doesn't help you. That's why I say it's not like in a divorce situation. It's not a good situation to put yourself in their proximity, because you don't have the time to really think about what you're doing. When they're sitting there in person poking you in the eye, boop, 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 it's really hard to, be the Zen master and not allow it to bother you. So that's why no contact is so important. Here's a caveat on this that I want to mention about no contact, because I think a lot of people lose this, because when you're not around the person, it gets easier. And then you think, I got this figured out. They don't bother me anymore. I haven't had an issue, whatever. And then when you get in front of them, and all those emotions come back. I get that sometimes it's good to test the waters, but you need to be prepared for the fact that most of the time in the beginning stages of this, whenever you think that you've figured no contact out, when you finally actually get in the presence of your antagonist, maybe that's a better word for all these narcissistic personality types, is antagonists. When you get in front of your antagonist, it's a little harder. So, all right, let me see what else we got going on here. Let me click over here and make this bigger so I can see everything. And actually, let me make sure that I think that was okay. So that finishes up the boundary thing. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Let me look to see where we're at with the questions, and then we'll jump into the second part of that about this, which will be your questions off topic. Oh, Rob Hess is on. Hey, Rob says, I have the kids full time. They see her a few hours a week, and she doesn't help with anything. $12 in a year for food. Yes, it's a struggle, but I have the kids. And Rob, that is the key. I had a friend of mine, I know I've told this story before, but I had a friend of mine at work who had his kids full time, and he was still paying child support. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That you shouldn't be paying anything. And his comment was, it's an insurance policy. He goes, basically, I'm paying her to stay away from the kids. And he goes, look, I know that if I go back to court and I say, hey, I have full custody, her response, and I didn't get it at the time, I get it now, but her response will be that she wants custody, or she wants more custody. And he's like, I don't want to do that to the kids. I don't want to, it sucks, but it's stable, but it would be worse if they were ordered to spend more time with her. So it's a tough one. Because it's wrong. They're they should be doing other things, but you have to look at it in the context of of the big picture. And I think, Rob, it sounds like you have that figured out. And I would imagine that it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to get to that point. That's what's important, I think, about people who find this channel and this information at the beginning stages, is you can make better decisions that doesn't hurt you, right? For instance, I've talked about how I took my ex to small claims court way back when. The consequence for that was painful in a bunch of different ways. At the time, I needed to do that. If I would have, if I would have been a younger Duane on this channel, as a viewer of the DSD channel, maybe I could have been persuaded that was it really important for me to do. I don't know. I mean, I at the time, it was the right decision. I don't regret the decision. And it was one of the first times in this whole process where I felt like I held her accountable, or there was a consequence for her action. But it was superficial, right? I mean, there is a consequence for her actions anyways. So, anyways. All right, let's see. Oh, I guess Matthew had asked, do I do this every Tuesday? I do. Well, okay. I typically do. However, next Tuesday, I don't think I'm going to, because I'm taking the short weekend, make it a long weekend. I am heading up. At least this is the plan right now. Debbie's sick. That's why she's not on. But the plan is that I am going to head up to Northern California on Friday, spend the weekend with her. She's off on Monday. And I'm off on Monday. I took Tuesday off, and I'll drive back. So if I'm back in time, I'll do a live stream, but I may not, because that's a long drive. So, but yeah, typically I am my normal time. If you go to, let me jump over here. If you go to the main channel on it, over here, I even advertise live stream every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. That is my normal time to do that. So let me move. Whoops. Oh, come on. There we go. Nope, that didn't work. There we go. So technically the phone line is open. I just have, part of my problem is I have too many screens, or too many windows I need to have open, which complicates things. So let me do this. Let me move this over here. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. I'm moving stuff on the screen. So I'm trying to get this over here. So I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to go, nope, not there, there. So now I can kind of see everything that's going on. So in theory. All right. And the phone line is open if you guys want to use it. At least I think it is. We'll see. All right. Let me look through all of this, see where we're at. Shay says, narcs love omission, whether it's lying or not, doing what they're supposed to be doing, ghosting and omission. And here's the other flip side to this. And what they will say whenever someone holds them accountable or tries to say that they're not being involved, they're going to turn around and say, well, I would be involved, but my ex won't ever let me see the kids. I try to call, but she won't answer the phone, or I try. And they're not going to say that, well, the court order says that you get this and you never do that. No, they're not going to say that. It's going to be whatever does their narrative, supports their narrative. Oh, let me grab this with pencil. And so I got to shrink this back up so I can get over here and okay. Keynote. All right. So Pencil's follow-on question was, even if I live with them, how can I stay out of their proximity and I walk on landmines if I do the stupidest of tiny things they don't want me to do? Honestly, you need to start working on an exit plan to GTFO. And I mean, whatever that is, getting a job, joining them, I mean, whatever works. I mean, a lot of people join the military to get out. It's tough. The follow-on on that, if you're living in the midst of it, then you basically do the eggshell thing, because you're not going to be able, if you're in someone else's house and you can't leave, then it makes it tough. Now, this also is true for people who are in a marriage and the other person works and they're the toxic person and they're like, oh crap, I want to get out, but I can't. You start finding an exit strategy. You find, if you're married, then you do the domestic violence shelters and that type of thing, if it's applicable. If it's your parents, you just find a way to get out. You find someone else to move in with, you find someone to roommate with, and you do everything in your power to basically be that gray rock, to not respond, to not have them target you. The problem is, in those situations, then they're probably going to target you because you're not doing anything. Well, you're lazy. You don't do anything. You don't respond. You won't defend yourself. I mean, they will attack you on any way. See, and this is a good point you bring up, Pencil. And one of the things I want to say is, guys, you have to be aware that as you start to basically establish your boundaries and say no to things, expect that they are going to push back. They're not going to go, oh, okay, well, Pencil has set up a boundary and I guess I can't go there anymore. No, they will push it. And what I mean is like, if you gray rock, if you basically they yell at you and you don't give them a snarky look. You don't talk back to them. You just kind of relax yourself. You play it in your mind, this little meditation thing. You can expect that they're going to go off on you for that. They're going to, whatever. Like I said, they could turn around and say, you won't defend yourself. You're a piece of crap. You have no backbone. Here I am yelling at you. You won't even defend yourself. And, you won't even, yada, yada, yada. And then if you defend yourself, they're going to yell at you for that. I mean, it's just, you're in Pencil, you're in a no-win situation. You just have to work on your exit strategy to get out. And You know, I mean, I know that's not the easiest thing, but you find a way to do it. My solution, I joined the military. I went in the Air Force. Honestly, it was one of the better things I probably ever did. It got me out. Unfortunately, I did I got out of my family and origin toxicity and replaced it with a wife and, you know, just continued it. But at least I had some autonomy and was, I don't know, I guess I'm not really doing a great job of expressing that comment, but all right, let me get off of that screen. Let's see what the other one was. Oh, you know what? Let me see. Okay, I'm just following some of these other questions. So let me post this in here. Okay, so JS had said, X is asking for itemized receipts for uninsured medical copay. Order says to pay them. Isn't it stepping over my HIPAA boundaries asking for itemized receipts? If he's asking for receipts for you, yes. If he's asking for the kids, no, because they're his kids too. And if the court order says he has to pay them, then he has every right to know whatever their uninsured medical things are. What I do on that is what I was doing is I would itemize the bills and send a spreadsheet with what the bills were with the date, and I would attach the receipt. And sometimes I would share the information. I mean, whenever unless the court order says that, you know, they're not supposed to know anything about the kids. And honestly, JS, I would be careful about that, because if you're not sharing that type of information, and medical stuff about the kids is like 99% of the time is shareable information, you want to be sharing that because if not, they're going to come back and say, hey, the ex isn't sharing anything. I keep asking about what's going on. The kids are going to medical appointments and I don't know what they are. They're not, you know, and remember, they're not going to say it in the context of that they're messing with you. They're going to spin it to where what the issue is. So, they're going to spin it with what their issue is, with what their narrative is. So, unless I'm wrong on something, JS, if there's a medical bill and he needs to pay half, then him getting copies of the receipts makes sense. I mean, to be perfectly honest, he should be able to call a medical provider and say, hey, give me a copy of the bill and what happened. Unless he's not supposed to have it, and I don't think that's your situation, but I don't remember. No, this is a good question from Mark Clark, and let's see here. And keynote. Okay, Mark says, do narcs feel real pain or real love? The answer is no, they do not. They basically are kind of damaged, kind of. No, they're not kind of. They are damaged. Typically, narcissism is caused by childhood trauma. Typically, what happens is whatever that time that happened, where their injury or their neglect, emotional neglect occurred, that's kind of the emotional age that they get trapped at. And as a defense, excuse me, it's either a defense mechanism, depending on whether it's more, psychopathy or narcissism. Bottom line is they do not feel the same way. They don't deal with emotions the same way. They, a lot of times, can't do emotions. Typically what happens is they are mirroring them and they're pretending. They know what the appropriate, they've observed what the appropriate response is. So if they need to cry, it's like, okay, this happened and I'm supposed to be upset, so I will cry. That's why a lot of times you'll see them fake cry and they can't make tears, because they don't really cry. So yeah, I mean, and Matthew, and if I called you Mark, I apologize. This is, okay, one of the things that was really tough for me in my therapy was one of my therapists had said, you know, your ex loved you in the only way they knew how. And I didn't understand what that meant, because I thought, okay, well, you're saying she loved me and I'm not able to see it. So I took it as like I was a piece of crap. When people say that to you, if it's been said to you, what they mean is they don't have the ability to have genuine loving relationships and emotions and attachments that normal people would have, okay? So no, they don't feel real emotional pain or real love. Now, they can feel narcissistic injury, And if you do something to basically peel back the little onion or chink at their armor, and they start having to experience those, the trauma that got them to where they are, they will defend themselves in a vicious way that will not be pleasant. So be careful with that one. Hopefully that answers your question, Matthew. All right, let's see what else we got going on. All right, let's grab this one. And I haven't really completely read it yet, but okay. And keynote. Okay, OldShawneeRd says, regarding kids in medical, do I, as a non-custodial parent, need to ask for information regarding medical appointments, or should that information be passed on to me before the appointment and or information post-appointment? Oh, it absolutely should be passed on to you before. You should be made aware of the appointments. Now, are you going to be made aware of the appointment? Nope. More than likely you will not. What I ended up having to do was call and check. I did that with the therapy appointments, and sometimes I would do that with the doctor's appointments. You need to document that because they absolutely should be sharing it, and they should be sharing the post-appointment information, and more than likely they're not going to do it. And this is what the answer I got, because when I remember when I pushed back on that, with the ex, I'm like, hey, when are these appointments? Well, you never cared about the appointments anyways. Why should you care now? It's like, just tell me about the damn appointments. And part of the problem that I had on that is I was like, no, the court order says you're supposed to tell me. You're going to tell me. Well, you can't get someone to do something, right? I mean, I could have documented it and taken it back to court, and ultimately it would have got her into trouble. This is why in my older videos when I talk about it, I just say go around it. Go to the school, make sure your information's on the contact list so they tell you. Talk to the teachers and say, hey, I don't get the information. Could you please, if you're going to send the ex an email, could you send me an email? If you do both. I mean, I actually got one teacher to start sending pictures. I mean, two things. One, what the teacher did is when she realized what would happen, she's like, okay, the information goes home on Wednesdays because that's when they go to dad's, right? Because initially it was like they would be on Tuesday or Monday, and then I would get nothing. You have to work around them. Document it still, though, because if you end up in court, you want to be able to put out that pattern of behavior so that you can demonstrate, look, this is what's going on and this is what I have to do. That's why a lot of times if there's ever anything like the other day on that appointment, that I will draft up my summary of what happened and send it to her, just because if there is something that I'm supposed to share, I want to share it to establish that I do actually share information. Now, I will tell you that I guarantee you if I ever ended up in court, she would find the 1 or 2 times that I didn't send something and use that to demonstrate that I don't share information. So, I mean, it's like you're never going to win with these people. But do everything in your power as you can. So yes, OldShawneeRd, they actually should be sending you the information. Now, I would say ask for it. Say, hey, wonderful ex, could you please let me know when the kids have appointments and what is going on? And can you give me the information after if I'm unable to attend because I work? Just so you can establish that you asked, and then you can establish that they don't. They're not sharing that. Okay, so... good question. Let's see. Okay, Lyell has a question. And Lyell's question is, are the doctors and therapists obligated or allowed to share the information on your kids with you? They are only if you are identified that you have joint custody. If if the other person has sole custody, then no, then they won't share it with you because they don't have to, and technically, I mean, they could. I mean, I guess it's a judgment call, but in my experience, typically they would say no. The thing is that most of the time, our exes are going to say that they have sole custody and the other person is just the non-custodial parent and doesn't have any whatever. I mean, I had that happen a couple times where that's what, even after we had shared custody, it was 50-50. The ex was taking the kids places saying that she had full custody and was giving the people the impression that giving the people the impression that she had full custody and I had no rights on anything, and I had to send them. I had to basically correct that, which created some extra drama. And let's see, let me look at what's going on in the questions. Let me flip back over here and see where we are. Okay. Oh, I see Cy Scooby's on. Hey, Cy. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to look through the comments here. Yeah, I think, and see, Lyell, in your situation now that she's 18, then now they can't share the information unless your daughter signs a release saying that they can. Actually, man, I made a mistake with that with my son with Social Security. They were like, hey, do you want to be the person on it? I'm like, no, he's an adult. Let him do it. Oh, dear God. I wish I would have left my name on it because there's some things that he's not really able to do and the conversation he's not able to have. And now I have to have him here to make the call. And I work, so it makes it complicated. So let's see. Oh, Shay says, you can't go a week without being a thorn in somebody's side. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Okay. Okay, let's see. All right, let's see. All right, I'm trying to read up on this. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. It seems like we're almost caught up on everything and all the questions and stuff. This one seems to be going pretty fast. Oh, it looks like Matthew joined the Discord. So welcome, Matthew. I'll add you in. If one of the other mods haven't added you behind the wall, I will. Oh, hey, one of the things I wanted to mention, since I am going to be traveling on Friday, I am going to try, and this may be a train wreck, but I know some people have been wanting to chat with me on the phone. Or, well, I'm not going to give my phone number out, but if you're interested in that, send me an email, Duane at dadsurvivingdivorce.com. I have a couple of appointments scheduled, little half-hour jaunts, try to do maybe some Zoom meetings or something on that. So if you're interested in that and you're wanting to try to get with me, because I typically don't do that because I don't have the time. I don't have the connectivity at work and when I'm in my office, and I now have some connectivity. That's the reason why I've been able to answer some comments and stuff. But I'm still in my office, so I'm not really in a good position to be able to actually talk on the phone. It's one thing to be able to type something and be able to close it down as people come in and out, but being able to talk on the phone is complicated. However, Friday, it looks like that might be an option to where I could do that. So if you're interested in that, send me a note, and maybe we could set up a time on my gigantic drive up to Northern California. Oh, and if anyone's in the Northern California area, in the Chico type area, maybe we could go grab a coffee, because I don't normally get out that much, but one of these days I'm going to have to head down to LA and try to meet up with some people down there. On a weird note, most of the largest, or most of the people on the mailing list appear to be in California, which is really kind of bizarre. I'm not sure what that means. Barbecue at Duane's. Yeah, that would be cool. I don't think you want me barbecuing. I'm not the greatest cook, though. Dynasty of 3 says doctors and therapists could lose their license if they did so. If you are the custodial parent, then you are allowed to be in the know until the child is at the age of 14. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Excuse me. I know that even when the kids were going to the therapy stuff, I would have conversations, but I never forced what I mean is I would have conversation with a therapist about what was going on, but I wouldn't push for information because I didn't want to violate the trust with the kids and stuff. And I could take hints, it's like, so what's the big issue as opposed to the detail, and what can I do to work on it? Okay. Oh man, it's getting hot in here, unfortunately. Although the weather is finally starting to calm down. Okay, so I'm scrolling up. Oh, let me go over here to camera 2, so you guys can see behind the scenes. See, I'm sitting here trying to scroll through all this. Hey, maybe this will be interesting. You guys might actually be able to see when it just zooms up, like it does sometimes. I'll be like reading a comment, and then it just goes away. Hopefully doing. Oh, okay. Okay. So Matthew did get on there. I see someone was talking about me doing that. Mentioned the Discord. Oh, Free to Fly says it's an emotional processing disorder. They experience emotions and don't know how to deal with it, so they have others act them out, gaslight us to make us rage to get out their anger, for example. Ugh, yeah, it's just, man, talk about just toxic, nasty stuff. All right, let me scroll back down and see where we are. All right, guys, maybe this might be a good stopping point. I think we've had a pretty good show. Now, before I go, I want to ask some questions, get your guys' opinion. First thing, no chat. What do you guys think? Is this better? Is this easier? Is it less distracting? I still have my cool little stuff at the bottom. Primarily, I do that for me so I can see what's going on. It's and all this different garbage. No, not there. All this stuff that's open. I can't really see it. Just so you know, this is my YouTube window. This is which is basically showing kind of what the stream's going on, saying what it's doing. This is the switching software that runs it. This is Discord. This is the telephone thing we didn't do. I'm following the comments here. This is the preview for the web page. So if I pull the web page up, and then this is what's currently live, what you guys are seeing, and I can flip to different things. So Chris says no chat in the screen is fine with me. Yeah. Lyell says he liked the chat. Here's the thing though, and this is the reason why I'm kind of okay with shutting it off without it being baked into the video, is YouTube still shows it, right? When you watch the replay, once it's processed, there's a time in the beginning where it's not completely finished processed, but the chat still comes up. You can still see the live chat in the YouTube window. You can actually even watch it on your phone. I mean, if you go down and you say show the chat, it'll show the chat on it. That's kind of the reason why I'm like, well, maybe I don't really need it. And technically, with this new configuration that I was talking about here, I would do it before, because whenever I would see the preview, I'm pointing at the screen, it would be on the screen. So it would be in front of my face. So what was live, I could see the live comments. And then over here, I would have the other comments. Realistically, in this new mode, this new configuration that I've done, I don't really, I don't necessarily need it anymore. Matthew asks, are you guys going to be on the Discord after? Yes, I will. If we end soon, which is what it looks like, I will spend a little bit of time. I'm going to take a quick break, do some things I need to do, and then jump back, and I'll jump into the Discord. Plus, we always do, the mods and I do an after action report on the stream, just to kind of make sure that we got everything on. Okay, so let me start. So yes, Matthew, if you want to chat with me, ping me on the Discord. I will definitely be there a little bit later. All right. Let's see. Let me start wrapping things up. No, not that one. I want to go here. I mentioned earlier about the podcast. I do have a new podcast. If you go to the main, you can find it in Stitcher and iTunes, all those different things. If you want to get to the show notes, you can do that on the main dadssurvivingdivorce.com website /podcast. Here's that dialogue I was telling you about for signing up for the newsletter. If you're interested, if you don't, just click it off. If it's not showing up, you want to sign up, you can do that there. This lists all the podcasts. I have 13 episodes. Oh, I wanted to delete the 13 out of that, but I didn't do that. Anyways, this is the last one on finding closure. And you can listen to it directly from the website if you want to. If you do it in iTunes on your phone, you do have the ability. All these time slots in here are all chapter markers. So if you want to, like when I was talking about earlier, where was it that I did that? Maybe I didn't put it in there. I thought, let's see. Well, I guess I didn't mark it, but towards the end, past the 20-minute mark, I think, is whenever I talk about that story about the letter I had sent to the ex. Anyways, so check out the podcast. Getting decent feedback about that. So if you're not aware of it, I do have a podcast. If you are, let's see, let me get back to the main page. This thing always loads slow whenever I do that. Here's another way to get on the Discord. Holy cow, 12,300. I didn't even notice that. That's cool. Wow, that is actually, talk about perfect timing. Even numbers, great. So you can get to the Discord through the website if you want for the invite link. You can also do it on the main thing. If you're having trouble and you're struggling, you can check out some of the things that helped me, some of these books. If you're really having a hard time, one of the things that really helped me were these hypnosis downloads files from Uncommon Knowledge. I got the Mend Your Broken Heart, Getting Over Divorce, Let It Go, Unrequited Love. And I would just listen to those over and over again. I would cycle them out. It's like guided meditation, and it was helpful. And I was really circling the toilet bowl, and I was just looking for anything that could help me. That might be helpful for you. Let's see here. If you want to send me an email and you go to the website, you can actually click right here on this little email link, and it'll open up in your client. Or if that doesn't work, you can hit the contact, and I'll do a web form, send it directly to me. Let's see. I think that covers everything. I talked about Discord. I need to probably put out the what do you call it? The how-to video on that again to help people out. Let me go back over here. And let's see. Oh, Sai says the setup looks good. Scott, oh, hey, Scott says the Duane, the last podcast was great. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. Rob Smith says, cool setup. Love 2 screens. Yeah, I used to use a roll around screen, which is more complicated, but this, other than this is insane with the way it all looks, it works very well for this. It's a little annoying because if you look in this camera, this way straight ahead is the front door, right? So anybody who opens up, if I open the door for the pizza guy, they see the entire set, which is not exactly outstanding, but hey, it is what it is. Oh, someone asked about the plant earlier. Yeah, Mr. Plant's not doing so well, so I'm trying to get it some sun because it was like slowly dying in the background. I don't think you guys really saw that, but okay, on that, I'm talking in circles. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thanks for the great questions. I hope you enjoyed the topic and how it was laid out. If you're watching this in the replay, I would appreciate your feedback on me going back to these more structured videos with basically slides, how you feel about that. And on that, like I said, I probably won't be back on Tuesday because of the traveling. There's a chance Debbie and I might do something live over the weekend, just depending on what we're doing. This is actually going to be probably the first time that we're going to have a whole weekend to really just be by ourselves and do stuff, which will be awesome. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Hopefully she gets feeling better because she's sick right now. And hopefully I don't get sick because everybody at work is getting sick. It's like, come on, really? No. On that, guys. Have an outstanding rest of your evening. I will be actually making more videos. I just haven't had a chance to do that. Hopefully I will get to do some of that this weekend when I'm with Debbie. And yeah, we'll chat with you guys in the next video. Take care. Be kind to yourself. Work on your boundaries. It's the first part about getting yourself back on this. And I will chat with you on the next video. Take care.